Welcome to the Sislinski wedding, or however you say it. Holly, you couldn't at least have picked out a guy with an easier last name to pronounce? Well, about a month ago, Holly sent me a text message, and it was, would you be willing to do a roast at my wedding? And I thought for a second, I was like, Well, I'm from Kentucky, for those that don't know. I was like, well, a roast won't travel very well in my crock pot. That's kind of a long drive. So I was a little worried about that, but then I got to thinking. I was like, well, maybe it was a typo. Maybe she meant, would you do a toast at my wedding? Oh my gosh, I would be so honored to give a toast at your wedding, Holly. Well, come to find out, only about 4 days ago, I figured out what an actual roast was. So, after many videos on Comedy Central, it's basically brutal. They just make fun of the person the whole time. So I was thinking, I was like, Holly, on your wedding day, really? You just want people to make fun of you? Well, I guess between all of the oohs, the ahs, the oh, you're so beautiful, and I'm so happy that you met your Prince Charming, you wanted to be brought back down to the real life. So, Holly, here's my best roast. Watch out, Kevin Hart. Before I met Holly, I was as innocent as Hannah Montana, Britney Spears before 2007, Aaron Carter's I Want Candy song. You get the idea now. So I was pretty innocent. Then I met Holly and Courtney in 9th grade of high school, and I learned to twerk, drop it like it's hot. I ate pizza rolls for the first time in my life. And I was introduced to late night HBO porn. I mean, basically, you could say Holly was responsible for my corruption. And Holly, besides that, she was always, and I mean always, the one to go to for all the juicy, dirty information. I mean, with 3 brothers, how would you not be? Especially with brothers like Holly had. Love them to death, but I mean, they had a little wild side as well. The only sport, if you will, sport that Holly did in high school was she cheered. I was on that same cheer team too, but what Holly did would not constitute as a sport. But somehow she even managed to break her leg. I mean, big booty girls are not supposed to fly. Then, guy after guy after guy after guy. I mean, you get the idea. We ever wondered if Holly would ever find the one. If the one is such a thing. I mean, I don't know. But then I was introduced to Andrew. And believe me, he was just as bald 4 years ago. I mean, Holly, what were you thinking? Andrew is what I would call a lumber sexual. So, this is your traditionally metrosexual guy who grows a big fancy beard and he pretends like he's cut wood before. I mean, this is a real thing on Urban Dictionary, so you all can look it up. I'm not just blowing smoke up here, I promise. Basically, it's like if Paul Bunyan and a hipster were to have a child, the product would be Andrew. But I will give it to Andrew. He does grow a very, very nice beard. But he even likes to groom it at the bars that we're at with this like beard brush. It's kind of weird. But I've witnessed this. I mean, he does brush his beard at the bar. But Holly and Andrew, they are absolutely perfect for each other. They really are. I ever wondered if Holly would ever meet someone who complimented her in every single respect, and she found that person. For those of you that don't know, I mean, they are total freak-a-leaks. Total. I mean, they put the capital K in kinky, for sure. But all seriousness aside, Holly is one of my closest friends. I am so happy for her and Andrew. I have watched their relationship blossom from rock bottom at Pine Rest to the now endless futures that they both have. I know and I'm confident that the best is yet to come, and I can't wait to watch what's in store for you all. But on a last note, I mean, Peru's got to watch out. It might need some earmuffs. But Holly, you've now been roasted. MEG, out.
Thank you. Tough act to follow. You thought the speeches were done. No. You still have food, so please keep eating. I will take your divided attention as best as you can give it to me. Thank God I got picked to do the roast. The best man and the man of honor, they have the easy jobs. Or no, they have the hard jobs. They have to think of nice things to say. I get to think of bad stuff. I get to unleash 16 years worth of our so-called friendship on you. So, disclaimer for the guests. Andrew told me to keep the swearing and the sex jokes to a minimum, which cuts out roughly 99% of the things I was going to say. What you're left with is relatively benign, but come see me later. I'll tell you a story about his formative years, which, despite his lack of hair, are still ongoing. Just for the crowd's knowledge, like we said earlier, we knew about this on about Monday, so nothing like planning your wedding at the last minute. Oh, I was too busy traveling to Hawaii to get my life under control. If you don't know already, Andrew is a super important businessman who travels the world saving old disabled people from the terrors of healthcare. Like Adam said, we don't know what he really does. He provides robust healthcare reform solutions to state departments that could have been written by a drunk 10-year-old. But I'm sure you all know that because he's like a vegetarian who does CrossFit and runs marathons. You don't have to ask. They let you know in the first minute that they're a vegetarian who does CrossFit and runs marathons. If you don't know, Andrew was in Boy Scouts as a young man. And it took him a few years to figure out that there are no girls in Boy Scouts. A few years. But then this lesson came along about tying knots and using knives, but he was already out, so he missed that lesson. And when they were leaving Seattle, they have this roof rack, and they, had been traveling the world, and all of their stuff fit in a G6 or on top of a G6. Not much in there. He couldn't tie a knot properly to keep the roof rack on, and then he proceeded to slice his hand open with a knife that I gave him. So, don't give him knives. And, yeah, that's that. Also, your poor parents. They are the most, yes, please. There's one. They are the most saint-like people I have ever met before, for the sole fact that they didn't murder you when you were growing up. Instead of murdering you, they decided to have Adam. Try and... Tried to bring some balance to the world. He's everything you aren't. Smart, respectful, kind, calm, caring, good-looking, smart, good-looking, kind, good-looking, smart. Really trying to drive that home. Do not be surprised if you are completely written out of your parents' will. I think your babysitters growing up have a better shot at being written into your will than you do. Not that your parents are super old or should be worried about having their affairs in order, but I'm sure raising you shaved a good chunk of their years off their life expectancy. Done.
All right. Only Holly and Andrew would deliberately ask people to insult them at their wedding. I'm sure a year from now, or maybe 2, they're going to be telling people, since they're the hipsters they are, we did wedding roasts before they were cool. Holly and Andrew met at Pine Rest, which is a mental health facility, and surprising as it is, they were employees, not residents. Blew my mind. I know. Though Andrew did not want a girlfriend, we've all heard this story 1,000 times. Andrew didn't want a date, but Holly's a stage 5 clinger, and she somehow weaseled her way in, and she got him to take her on a date. Her persistence just shows how much she likes large, bald, loud men with beards who love beer. Her standards are really, really high. Yeah. So I met Holly the night she officially got Andrew to stop being a man whore. And we all know that was a long time coming. She decided, she got in there. I don't know how she did it, but it happened. Holly and I didn't get off to the greatest start. She didn't really like the idea of the girl sitting on her new boyfriend's lap, flirting with him. Little did she know he had just bit me or hit me or something, and I fell. Oh, he smacked me, and I bit him, and it was a hot mess, but she thought that I was this terrible person. Clearly she just doesn't have good judge of character. Yeah. A little time passed, and luckily I got to go out to a bar with Andrew and his new girlfriend, Holly, and I redeemed myself in her eyes, I think, because I'm here. I think this is the night that I fell in love with Holly and decided that we would be together forever. We just decided that, and we chose the roundabout way by marrying best friends who grew up in the same town who are both named Andrew. But it guarantees that we will stay together forever. So it's fine. It'll work. Being friends with Holly is such a blessing. Such a blessing. Who doesn't love having that friend who lets you know every time she's at the gym and how much she squats? Yeah. How much she squats and how big her biceps are getting. I'm honestly surprised they fit in that dress. Like, seriously, girl. Oh, and if you don't know what that looks like, don't you worry. She'll take a selfie.
But first, let me take a selfie.
Let her take a selfie. And if you don't actually understand what just happened, check her Facebook probably in like 2 days, and my husband down there will probably troll her wall and post that 1 million times on every single selfie she has, which is about 1 million. Holly and Andrew as a couple are obviously very, very adventurous in more ways than one, but we won't get into that because we're not allowed to. But I learned a lot of things last weekend at the bachelorette party. Yeah. They're gross. While I do not at all agree that Andrew is the perfect person for her, because obviously that's me, I guess he's a pretty close second. These two, I'm sure, will be going on 1 million more crazy adventures together, making sure we feel a little inferior because we're in Michigan, while they're off exploring the world, or the moon, or Mars, or wherever the hell they are. Because apparently Andrew travels for work, which I'm pretty sure is just code for my girl and I are beer snobs. And we've been to every brewery in the United States, and you don't know anything about beer. But we do. So, yeah, you don't actually know. Okay. But all jokes aside, this couple's one of the coolest, most loving, hilarious pair I know. And I'm getting, serious again, but whatever. They know that marriage isn't something that's going to be easy, and they're really willing and excited to make it work. I love you both, but Lord help us when they decide to reproduce.
Whoa. That was wild. My name is Mike, aka Friend Dad, as all these guys know. When Andrew initially asked me to do a small roast, I said no. So naturally, I'm here. Apparently, he needed to draw names from a hat. First of which, he needed to take off his head, because that's where it is 24/7, for anyone who knows Andrew. I've unfortunately known this gentleman for many years, dating back to the good old times full of hair, vibrance, and Lupe fiasco. I can only credit the lonely freshman working at the Grand Valley filling out the housing assignments for putting me next to this monster in the dorms. He introduced me to many things, mostly unmentionable due to the rules and stipulations put upon us for this roast. Such things as screamo music, the Superman dance move, the art of falling asleep in 2 minutes and drooling all over the floor, flannel onesies with butt flaps for the times you simply cannot hold it. And the best one, the crowd pleaser, the elephant thong, which I am certain has made more than one appearance at our household get-togethers in college. And who knows, perhaps more recent appearances have been made in San Diego, Seattle, Hawaii, Denver, and maybe even Grand Rapids. You never fail to liven up the party. For instance, scarring my now wife one evening with when you, quote unquote, didn't puke, but burped and stuff came out. Mere feet from us across the way at the beer pong table. As the years went on and his head aged more rapidly, one thing was for sure. He began to excel in the art of lumberjack beard crafting. He more than made up for whatever used to be on top with an array of beard balms, oils, and moisturizers that even Miss America would be envious of. Anyone who knows Andrew knows that at times he can be messy, like month-old Cheetos, old glasses full of green milk, toothpaste all over the counter, and environmentally hazardous amounts of scum in the shower. Kyle, I'm glad to know that you've made it this long without a foot amputation after sharing the same bathroom in college. The kid can be wild. He has been known to headbutt walls in the wee hours of the morning following especially spirited evenings out. We'll ride your storage containers down the stairs if you choose to leave them out. And because of all of this, I'm glad he has found someone to keep him together. He and Holly are a great match, and she sure has a lot of work to do. Congrats to you two on a fantastic wedding and many years to try and transfer that beard to your head. Love you both.